All right, hopefully you had time to think about this problem. Now, we know that one rotation around would give us 2 pi. And from 0 to 180, I'm going to say that this is just 1 pi or pi. Okay? Now, they're asking us for this location here. How would you represent this location given the two things that we know? We know that 180 is pi, and we know that 360 is 2 pi. Well, taking a look at this, we know that this is half of pi. So what I'm going to say here is this is actually just going to be 1 half pi. Or another way to write it, you can say that this is going to be pi over 2. Okay, and all they did here was they just multiplied pi times 1 and got pi over 2. Okay, just to simplify it. So that's something that you can, that you should know. Okay, that this half would be pi over 2. If you take a look at the actual unit circle, and this I just searched on Bing unit circle. Yes, I use Bing. And I'm going to get rid of the coordinates for a second just to make it easier. And I'm going to get rid of the degrees. Okay. So as you can see here, one whole rotation is 2 pi. Half of that would be pi. And then pi over 2 would be our third here. Okay. So I'm going to write that in. You guys go ahead and do that if you haven't already. They want us to write it like pi over 2. And yes, it does work, okay? For question 17, slide 17, the angle shown here is 45 degrees. How far around the circle do you travel anti-clockwise from 1, 0? That is, what is this angle in radians, okay? Now, looking back at the work that we did already, we know that this is 2 pi. We know that this is pi. And we know that this is half of pi. Okay, which you can write as pi over 2. Now, this is going to be 90 degrees. This is 180. And if we go from 90 to 45, what do we do to get from 90 to 45? We cut it in half, right? 45 degrees is half of 90. So if we want to take a half and cut that in half, right, what fraction would we have here? And if you're confused about this, think of a half as 50 cents. Think of pi here as $1. Think of 2 pi as $2. So if you have 50 cents and you cut that in half, how many cents do you have? 25 cents. You have a quarter. So what we're going to say here is that this is going to be 1/4 pi. Or we can write that as pi, and I'm getting lazy here, I'm not doing the little squigglies, over 4. Okay, and that's what our answer is for this question. So to write that, you type in pi over 4. Match up the angles in degrees and the angles in radians. Okay, so I want you guys to do this one on your own. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. You pause this as well, and then when you come back, the answers will be there for you. All right, so taking a look at this, at our answers here, I didn't do 2 of the cards. I left those blank because I want to explain my process. So for the 180, we learned 180 is half of the circle, so 180 would be pi. We know that half of 180 is 90, so half of pi is 1/2 pi, and that's how I got this answer here. Half of 90 is 45, and half of 50 cents, or 1/2, is 1/4, or 0.25. So I got that answer here. Now I have 2 cards left, and using process of elimination, I'm going to assume that a third is going to go here. And I do know that 60 is a third of 180, and so this one works. And 30 is 1/6 of 180, so I'm going to put pi over 6 for this last one. Okay, so check your answers. This is what you guys should have. We are going to move on to the last few slides in the next few videos.